Recreate myself down south. Impress all the women. Pretend I'm Samuel Clemens. Wear seersucker and white linens.
Joey Barton on Drive. Coming up, we'll talk about Man City, Spurs, the England squad and loads more. But first, with live commentary of Everton coming up at 6 here on talkSPORT, Joey revisits the Unsworth debate. Stand by for Radio Gold. It's Drive on talkSPORT.
I actually think that Joey Barton's a very honest guy, and if he says that, I think we should accept it, and we should respect his opinion. But he did say that the overweight thing is by far the lesser of the reasons.
Listen, when you're stood in the technical area or you're coaching players, whatever it may be, you're just judged on what your knowledge is of the game. And that's really all that David Unsworth should be judged on. Now, if Joey thinks that he's not good enough or not got enough experience, that's fine. That's an opinion of Joey's. But we do live in a world where people prejudge by what you look at. That's the first thing you pick up on. And you prejudge at your own cost at times, you know. And you can lose a lot of good talent by prejudging.
A strong, physically fit-looking manager reflecting the sentiments of a team that he purports to represent is advantageous.
If your manager is scruffy or overweight, or one of the things Joe's talking about, Unsworth,
he's not scruffy, Unsworth.
No, I'm using other. Not this ain't just about Unsworth. As footballers, and this ain't right, by the way. Premier League footballers are the best they can be because they work. They're you know what, off in the gym. They train. They, and then your manager is saying to you, you got to live your life right. You've got to be the best you can be. Well, are you the best you can be, Gaffer? Are you making any efforts?
Now, Joey, I respect him, I like him as a pundit. And this is not about David Unsworth, and this should not be about Joey Barton. But it's become that, and now Joey chose to dwell on the appearance of David Unsworth. And to me, it doesn't matter. But what was wrong was that Joey decided to make it personal. I think it's out of order. It shouldn't be about Unsworth and the way he looks, and it shouldn't be about Barton.
Well, the first Scott you heard was George Galloway agreeing with Joey, and then Stuart Pearce saying that coaches are judged on knowledge. Then Simon Jordan and Danny Murphy both agreeing with what Joey Barton said about David Unsworth, and closing it up, Jim White, our very own Jim White, disagreeing with him. Listen, there's loads to talk about in the 2 hours before the Everton commentary, but we will get this done first of all before we move on. Joey Barton, how are you?
I'm good, Aid. How are you?
Yeah, very good. You've created fireworks this week, appropriately enough. You made some. I was listening to it, and you made some very interesting, valid points about Unsworth's coaching ability, but they seem to have got lost in this issue about Unsworth's weight and appearance. So, do you actually regret mentioning his size?
Well, you have to, don't you? Really, because the message has been lost by all the ridiculous things that have travelled in the media thereafter. But you know, I was given an honest opinion of how I see it, how I think people would think, how players certainly think. Clearly, the fact that it's made as much copy as it has, it's had the impact that it has, you know, people do believe that is an issue in this modern world that we live in. I do think appearance is, you know, can be a reason you get a job. You know, you turn up for a job interview, and if you walk in and you've got a shell suit on, all gravy stains down the front, it's a good chance that that first impression, no matter what your skill set is going to be a lasting impression. So we have to be careful. I mean, I'm just mindful of the fact of Manchester City have beaten Napoli away. Pep Guardiola, we should be talking about. Spurs have beat Real Madrid. Pochettino, we should be talking about. We're now talking about Unsworth. On Thursday night, he's lost 2 games out of 2. His strategy, his tactics, his experience, the decisions he continues to make, as well as the decisions he made within the game, should all be under scrutiny. And yet the one thing we're talking about is his appearance. Now, a lot of people are unhappy about that, Aid. A lot of people, you know, rightly saying, well, that should have nothing to do with it. And it shouldn't, and it wouldn't, if he had all the other skills. So he had the experience, he had the strategy, he had the tactics, he had the results. He'd done the hard work, he'd had everything, you know, that you need to have to be a Premier League level manager. Then clearly it wouldn't be an issue. But I'm saying people in there will think like that. He dragged 2 senior international players off the pitch after 45 minutes who had been in the wilderness under the previous manager. He dragged them off the pitch. The game's live on Sky. 4 p.m. kickoff Sunday, Super Sunday. Drags them off the pitch. which is belittling the players, in my opinion. Doesn't give them the opportunity to go out for 10 minutes and put a shift in, prove them wrong, maybe what he said at half-time. And I'm telling you, if I was one of those players, I'd have been thinking, this is your first job. Like, what gives you the audacity to treat me like that? What gives you the audacity? And you've got an Everton dressing room, which is low on confidence. Everybody, you can tell by the performance and the way they're conducting themselves on the pitch at the minute, is looking to survive. Every single player in that team is protecting themselves. How do we know that? Just watch them play. Watch them play tonight. They're on in a couple of hours. Watch them play. So when you're in a situation in a dressing room where that's the case, whenever you go in and make bold judgments, as Unsworth has, dragging people off the pitch, they will start to think like that. They will start to look at you and think, what gives you the right to do this? Firstly, you've got no experience. Secondly, they'll start looking at your appearance. They'll start looking at, how you communicate. They'll start looking at every training session you do. They'll start looking at the tone and your sentiment of your words. They'll start looking at your tactics, your strategy, your media interviews, your interaction with others, your interaction with members of staff. They will be watching everything. David Unsworth was caretaker manager, Aid. When you're caretaker manager, or you're under 23s manager, you wear a tracksuit. He's always got a tracksuit on. David Unsworth turns up, the game's on Sky. He's aware, as much as anybody, how important your appearance is, because he had his best shirt and his best jumper and his best suit on. He knows how important appearance is to get the job. I keep hearing him saying, he's done a presser yesterday, our great club, our great fans. Well, okay, if that's the way you feel about it, send your best team to Lyon, because your inexperience has made you send a weakened team to Lyon in a game that you must win to stay in the Europa League. Everton aren't good enough at this moment in time to be sending teams and going, okay, we'll go out to Europe, but I'll tell you what, we won't win there, but I'll tell you what, we'll win on Sunday against Watford at home. Everton aren't good enough for that at the minute. You need all your best players, you need them playing well, you need them playing for you, you need United, travel away, get a result in Lyon. All of a sudden you've got a bit of momentum going into the game on Sunday. It's naive. He puts Ashley Williams up for a press conference. Ashley Williams, or whatever's going on at Everton, it mightn't be Unsworth who put him up. It's naive to put Williams up for the press conference. He's the one who instigates the fight where an Everton fan ends up getting stuck in with the, we've seen the big furore. It's a huge issue in France. How do I know? I've had friends of mine who work for L'Equipe newspaper on me Monday and Tuesday. How's Ashley Williams? What kind of guy is he? Is he a fighter? Is he? I'm like, no, he's a decent, balanced guy. I don't know what's gone on. He's clearly, when you lack confidence and you're frustrated, it spirals out and you do stuff that's out of character, which I think Ashley Williams did on that game. So that he's going into an environment that'll be baying for him. Everton at this moment in time really, really worry me. You've got Morgan Schneiderlin, you've got Idrissa Gueye, fluent French speakers. Why not put them up for the press conference? Why not put them up and not antagonise, the local media? It's strange. It's strange what's going on. And let's not get away from the facts, Aid, and these are the facts. Unsworth's had 2 games as Everton manager. They've lost 2 games. His tactics at Leicester City on Sunday were incorrect. Now, he might go on to get results tonight and win a game. He might go on to get results Saturday and win a game. What I was simply doing is being honest, getting this. People will discuss this, and loads of people are, well, not loads of people, to be honest. I've had lots of people, more people saying to me, yeah, it is. Jim is criticising.
Jim White, yeah.
Jim was in the studio with me. And out of the studio, he's saying something totally different. I mean, Jim's got more sides than a dodecahedron. We all know that. So we have to take in mind what Jim says. He comes in here, he's trying to be antagonistic, mischievous, it makes good radio, so on and so forth. But Jim said himself, he was in the press box at Chelsea. When Unsworth walked out, he said the whole press box gasped. We've all seen pictures of him. It shouldn't be important, but your appearance as a human being in certain aspects of your life, in a professional capacity, when you're the leader of an elite level group of athletes, unfortunately, whether we like it or not, it's important.
Well, for what it's worth, but some of the language used and terminology, I think you likened him to a steward. I thought that belittled him a bit too much. But yeah, you also said 98% of professional footballers will be thinking in a... You said you're saying what, 98% of footballers will be thinking in a dressing room. And when you said that kind of hit home, because you were in a Premier League dressing room last season, you know how their minds work. And I thought, well, people should be listening to that, because whether you agree with it or not, whether you think it's fair on Unsworth or not, if that's what the footballers are thinking, that's what matters, isn't it, really?
Well, I've spent the last couple of hours with you. I'm 13 stone 4 this morning. I usually play at 12 stone 6. Would you say I'm out of shape? I'm
No.
out of shape.
No.
Okay. Now, if I was to go into a football club tomorrow and have my body fat tests done, I'd be about, I reckon, 12-13% body fat. I'd be put in a fat club, I'd be put on a diet, I'd be forced to get a single figure diet. That's football. Your power to weight ratio is absolutely vital.
That would be a club policy.
You have to be single figure body fat percentage to play Premier League football. Otherwise it's frowned upon. You'll be put on diets, you'll be on a low carb diet, you'll be double sessions, whatever it is to get you in that shape. You'll almost be shamed. You'll almost be ridiculed for not being in that shape.
But he isn't a player.
So I'd be classed as being overweight. I know David's not a player, but what I'm saying to you is, as the leader, somebody who, in that environment. Now, this is not a normal environment. This is not pitching up for a job in Costa Coffee. This is not going to Pret a Manger for a job. This is none of that. This is working with elite level athletes in a professional football club where the game's viewed globally. So the manager of your football club is a brand, as we know with Guardiola, Mourinho, and when anything goes right or wrong for you, a goal against or a goal for, the camera will pan to him. It projects an image of your football club. So image is important. So what I'm saying, Unsworth isn't a player, Aid. I hear you on that, but he will be setting the pre-season fitness levels. If he does end up being a manager, he'll be setting the work ethic during the week, the demands on players. He'll be going in a dressing room saying, you're not working hard enough, you're not running hard enough. And when you attack people in any form of fashion, when you criticise people, they will turn around and hold the mirror up back to you. And that was simply what I was stating. Look, I probably went too far saying you look more like a steward than a manager. It was a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Sometimes it does get lost on the radio, and you know, if it forces it to lose its context, then that's stupid from me. But I still stand by what I said. Nothing I've said is untrue. Nothing I've said is not the way a footballer will think. Nothing I've said is not the way most people who I've interacted with online are thinking. I've just had the cojones or the stupidity or whatever you say to say it. Sometimes I say what I see. That's my role. He's a Premier League manager. It's a global game now. People like me are going to say what they see. And unfortunately, if that upsets people, then I'm not here to maybe everybody's friend. I'm here to say what I see. That's my job.
So, final word on this. Paul Ince has written you an open letter. And he said, what you've said about Unsworth is an absolute liberty. It was unprofessional. It wasn't funny. I was disgusted. Your reaction to that?
Well, I don't know whether Paul heard the commentary on Saturday. When maybe he's a little bit biased because I did criticise Tom Ince. Said, you know, he wasn't having the impact on the game that he kind of comes with. Whether that's a factor. And also, you know, Ince was a manager. He now can't get a job. You know, fantastic player, great player to watch, love watching him play. But when you look at him on the touchline, he went massive. You know, he lost his self-discipline as a leader of men. And that coincided with him not being able to get a job. So, you know, when I see Ince on the telly now, he's not in fantastic shape. So, have I upset him a little bit? Have I rattled his cage? Has he come out and said that because it's hit a little bit too close to home? I don't know. But, you know, you have to take it in at my stride, so to speak. That, okay, of course people are going to disagree with me. There's no problem with that. You know, no problem with Ince putting the letter in. There's a difference of opinion. It was my opinion. It was what I thought. It's not the absolute truth. You know, we live in a world that's very subjective. Fortunately for all of us, we're paid to do a job where we're to give opinions and based on the information we have at hand or our experiences of life. And sometimes people will disagree with that. I do worry in terms of the context of him writing a letter. You know, he's written it because a betting company have put him up to it. You know, if he wants to speak to me, there's loads of people who've got my phone number. Give me a shout. I'll go and have a coffee with him. And we'll discuss it. There's no problem at all. It's a game of opinions.
Listen, there's so much football to talk about. It's a short show because we have live commentary of Everton away to Lyon in the Europa League at 6. We've got to talk about Spurs next.
So if that comes